What do you mean Hades' origin? We know Hades' origin. Hey everyone, welcome to Princess of Gay. I'm your host Connie, and today we are here with my blind reaction to the Hades and Ursula villain origin songs from MilkyyMelodies. So we did a video for this kind of thing before. I forgot, like one of the ones we did before was Dr. Facilier. I think there was another one we did as well. But we're doing two today. These are both donation rewards for Venom, so thank you, Venom. And yeah, so MilkyyMelodies does these origin songs, which are basically just re-lyriced versions of songs from the Disney movies themselves that are supposed to give like these sort of origins for villainous characters. The problem here is that like Hades and Ursula have origins that I believe are kind of directly stated. Well, okay, maybe in the Hercules movie, Hades' full origin isn't like really gone into. But it's like, what are you going to say here? Like, he was created as a god. Are you gonna like talk about how he got like control of the underworld? Because that was pretty much just, you know, him and the other gods, like, divvying things up, and he just got the short end of the stick. Like, what is this going to be? Like, how do you do an origin for what is literally a god? That, I don't understand. And then you have Ursula, who, if I'm remembering right, I believe it's stated in one of the movies, maybe the series, for The Little Mermaid, and I'm talking about the Disney's Little Mermaid at this point for sure, that Ursula was connected, I don't remember the exact relation, but was connected in some way to King Trident, and that she was like cursed to look the way she was, and the reason like she, you know, became this sea witch and became evil and everything was because of like being shunned by Trident and the others. And basically it basically was all King Trident's fault. But it's like I don't remember all the details about it because it's been a while since I've really thought too much about The Little Mermaid. But I believe it is kind of directly stated. So it's like, is that these feel like characters that just don't make sense to go into this stuff for. But at the same time, it's like they also tried to give like this weird backstory to Dr. Facilier that just didn't make any logical sense. Trying to connect him to the voodoo woman from the swamp. I can't remember her name. And like act like she was Facilier's mother and stuff like that, and he was like, you know, mocked for his magic and shit, and made a deal with the demons because of that. And it's just like, what? None of this makes any sense. It just does not fit to his character, and it's also assuming like some kind of fan theory that just doesn't seem to make any logical sense in any way. But I don't know. Are all of these going to be based on like these weird fan theories? Because it's like, again, like, what are you going to do for Hades? Hades is not just some Disney character. Hades is a literal Greek god dating back to ancient Greece. Like, I don't know, are they going to mention Persephone at all? Demeter? Everything else related to that? Because none of that was in the Disney movie, mind you. For some reason, the Disney movie just completely excluded anything about Persephone. which is wild to me considering, how much Hades adores her. But I don't know. I guess we'll just have to watch these to find out. I'm just perplexed as to like what this can even like be from a conceptual standpoint. But let's just get into it and see, I guess. Hold up just a sec. Before you click that link down in the description below to get to today's video, I want to remind you of all the awesome content we have both on this channel and the Princess of Gaming channel. Let's check it out. Okay, and we are back, and we'll begin with spoilers in 3, 2, 1, now. So, I'm sorry I didn't say much of anything during the Ursula one, because I was kind of taking everything in and trying to remember, like, what part of that was, like, mentioned in the Disney movie, or movies, or whatever. The Hades one was, just the actual Greek myth. There's not really much to talk about. I mentioned everything in the reaction in regards to that, but I really want to talk about the Ursula one here. So I looked things up, and in the original animated, or let's actually start back with the original Hans Christian Andersen story. In the original story that the Disney movie is based off of, the Sea Witch doesn't have a name. Ursula is a name that was made for the Disney movie, just like Ariel was made for the Disney movie as well. That name didn't exist in the book either. But in the book, she was a sea witch, she was an enabler, and she was more neutral. She wasn't even really an actual, like, villain, per se. When they made the Disney movie, they, like, kind of turned her into this more of, like, a villainous character. Now, in the Disney movie, what she states is that she used to live in the palace. And it's stated through the movies and everything, like, I guess her and her sister, Morgana, both did. And at least from what I remember and what I read, Ursula was kicked out because of her use of black magic and her greed. It was kind of a combination of those two things that she was kicked out for. The entire thing about being King Triton's sister was apparently something that was started with the Broadway version. I guess it was originally planned, but never actually gone through with for the original Disney movies and stuff. But for the Broadway adaptation, it was integrated into there. And then in the more recent remake with Halle Bailey, it was included in that. So the entire aspect of her being King Triton's sister is newer, we'll say. But I knew there was the connection to Triton. I knew Triton was the one who kicked her out of Atlantica. I knew that she lived in the palace and everything. I just didn't know exactly what the relationship was. And I guess it's because it wasn't actually gone into that much. But yeah. It's really, I guess, interesting. Because it's not something that I feel like a lot of people think about too often with her character. At least not from what I've seen. But it does add a little more depth, and you could even say it's maybe a bit generic, but it does add a little more to her than just what we got in the original film. But yeah, going back to Hades, Hades' backstory was just a backstory from the Greek mythology. Kronos, having his children, fearing that they would overtake him, eating his children, and then, the survivors, mainly Zeus and everyone, imprisoning him and taking over. And then Zeus and Poseidon fucking Hades over and giving him the underworld. because yeah, there's Zeus and Poseidon, they fucking suck. Um, yeah, it is just the Greek mythology. So fascinating, I guess. Um, did not touch on Persephone at all, though. So that's still just not being talked about in relation to the Disney stuff. Um, I would say these are better than just making up some random backstory like they did with Facilier. Um, because again, the Hades one is based on the actual mythology, and the Ursula one is based off of the Broadway musical and eventually movie remake, the live action remake, which is probably one of the better live action remakes, I would say. But it's one of those cases where there's not a huge amount to actually discuss or talk about because it's pretty straightforward, especially with these songs being pretty damn short as it is. So it's just, very simplistic. Um I don't remember what I said about the actual singing last time because it's been a while since I've done the MilkyyMelodies origin song videos. The singing is good, nothing great, nothing special. It's just vaguely good. Um, it's YouTube singing. I think is the best way to put it. I don't mean this as an insult. What I mean is that a lot of the singers you find on YouTube are not as practiced and experienced yet. They're working on that, and a lot of times once they get more experience, they tend to either veer off of YouTube a little more, do actual touring, and you know go on to like programs or stuff and actually get more well known, start to release albums and all, or they use YouTube as a way of elevating their actual status now still, if they do still use it. Just from what I've seen in the past. But MilkyyMelodies is good. They're good. But there's clearly some work that could be done. And mind you, at least this Ursula one, it says was came out like about a year ago or so. Usually when I hover over that, it shows me the actual date, but I think I have to scroll down to see that. Hold on. I am trying. The webpage is not cooperating. December of 2023 is when the Ursula one came out. And as for the Hades one, May of 2024. Okay. So, within the past couple years, for both of them. And I feel like Milky has some like vocal inflection stuff that she needs to work on, or they need to work on. I don't want to assume pronouns. Um, they have some vocal inflection stuff, and specifically, there's like points where the voice cracks a little weirdly. Especially like during some like bigger moments. Also, they don't seem like they change not just the lyrics of these, but seem to change the arrangements a little bit. Um, with the Hades one, which is obviously the gospel truth, they don't belt it out. They actually like kind of pull it in and make it more sad and tragic in terms of its sound. And with the Ursula one, Poor Unfortunate Souls, again, it's kind of restrained a little bit. And I wonder if Milky is just not super confident in doing the bigger belted out vocals that both of these songs do usually have. Because the gospel truth, obviously, the muses in the original Hercules song like are really belting it out and really going like fast and exciting with their performances. And with Poor Unfortunate Souls, Ursula's VA, like Pat Carroll, I believe his name, like really, really like sells the sassy emotion with it by belting those lyrics out in such an extravagant way. And both of these songs, both of these versions are like reined in a bit. And I'm wondering if like Milky's not great with that at the moment that they were, recording this all, or if there's some other reason. But I feel that does kind of like pull away from it a bit. I understand what they were trying to do by making it a little more restrained, kind of trying to make them a little more tragic. But I feel like you still could have gotten that across with the belting vocals. I feel like they just feel like almost like okay, this is gonna sound weird, and I again I want to make clear I don't mean this as an insult. I'm just like pointing out like how I interpreted it from my standpoint of listening to this for the first time. It sounded like they were recording in their room in the middle of the night and didn't want to disturb anyone, so they were being quieter than they like would normally have been. Like, have you ever like watched a YouTuber who's like recording late at night and they're like, "Oh, I have to be a little quiet. I can't be yelling as much because I don't want to disturb my family or whatever." It's that kind of vibe. It's absolutely that kind of vibe. And again, I'm not going to assume anything. I'm not going to assume that's the case. I'm just saying what it sounds like. And again, it's not meant as an insult because Milky's vocals are good. But there's just a little bit of work that could be done to make them even better. And, I mean, that just happens. I mean, a lot of singers don't start out as, like, powerful with their voices as they end up being known to become. You think Christina Aguilera was always that powerful? Whitney Houston? Aretha Franklin? No, they had to work towards that. They had to strengthen their voices. I don't know why those are the three specific ones I chose, by the way. They just came to mind because they have powerhouse voices. I think that might be it. They were just three of the best powerhouse voices I thought of right off the top of my head. But yeah, it's like they had to work towards that. Their voices were probably always good, but they had to work to make them phenomenal. And that comes in different ways. Different people do different things to help themselves get better with that. It's the same thing as with any art form. Whether it be like, drawing or singing or acting, you just have to keep practicing. You have to keep doing stuff. And that's why I hate when like people will watch this kind of stuff and be like, "Oh, those vocals weren't that good. Like this wasn't like that good of a song because of it." It's like, shut up. This is why I'm making it very clear that I'm not trying to insult Milky here, because I've seen so many people say shit like this, especially on YouTube, who are trying to insult the singers, and it's like, you don't need to be an asshole about this. Even if you don't think they're as good as, like, I don't know, Chapel Roan or whoever else you like out there in the music sphere these days. Even if you don't think they're as good as someone like that, there's no reason to be an asshole and to be judgy like that. You can acknowledge that there's some things that they could work on, but you don't have to be mean. Constructive criticism and just being an asshole are two very different things. And so that's what I try to do with a lot of this stuff. I really try my best not to be like mean if I can help it. Sometimes I like will acknowledge I don't like something, and that's just I make it very clear that's my opinion, and I don't mean to like take away from anyone who does like it. But I try my best not to be me. Even if I hate a piece of media I react to, it's like I usually, again, always try to make it clear. It's like, if anyone likes this, that's fine. I just disagree. It's a personal, subjective viewpoint, and if you like it, that's perfectly cool. And I actually really support that, because it means that while this wasn't for me, it was for someone, and that's awesome. It's always good to support that kind of stuff. Um, and with this, it's not even that. Because with Milky's songs, it's like, again, they're a good singer. It's just that I think that they could be better. I think that there's a few things that they need to work on. And I mean, as someone who cannot sing, as someone who like just has no singing skills myself, I'm just basing it like off of comparisons to other artists I like, I guess. Um, but again, I'm I'm making it clear I do still like their voice. So just want to emphasize that as much as I can. But yeah, so this was pretty interesting. I'm very curious as to how many people had like discovered the Hades one and had just not known the Greek mythology behind all of this, and were like shocked to find out, like, wait, Kronos ate his children? It's like, yeah. Greek mythology can get pretty fucked, yo. It was. It's interesting when you first find that kind of shit out. Um, but yeah, tell me your thoughts on the Hades and Ursula villain origin stories down in the comments below. And thank you, as always, so much for tuning in. For now, I'm Connie, and I'm signing off. See y'all next time.